There are 4 tips that you could consider when you're interacting with somebody who is from a different cultural background to you. So the first tip I would suggest is using your observation skills. Observe how they're behaving, observe how they're interacting with you, observe their body language, and as far as possible, try and mirror and match the body language. So in some cultures, people like to sit and lean forward when they're interacting. And if you lean back, you're giving a message that you're not interested, which they would consider as an insult. So if you match how the other person is behaving, then the rapport will be building, and then you can then move on to the common areas that are there for the points of discussion. So that's tip number 1. The second tip is appreciate differences. Some cultures do behave very, very differently, which in other cultures would be considered as derogatory or insulting. So for instance, if you go to India, timekeeping is not so important there. People are fairly laid back and they are not as bothered about timekeeping. If you go to Switzerland, as an example, if you're a minute late, it's considered as a real insult. So just be aware that there are differences in what's expected and in styles of communication. So appreciate differences. Another example I can give to you is in Northern Europe, people would communicate by giving facts. In Italy, people would communicate by sharing a lot of emotions. In Japan, people communicate by building harmony. And in India, people would communicate by asking about families. Okay, so when you're talking about differences in culture, it's about being adaptable to... So if I was interacting with somebody from Northern Europe, I would think, oh, well, they're just going to ask me about facts and figures rather than asking me about personal life. And I would then adapt myself to accommodate what their needs are. The third tip, which is really important, is don't assume that because that person represents that country, that he or she is going to behave like everybody else. It's about respecting the individual concerned. So they would be behaving and interacting with you, which is about their personal values and beliefs. So it's about respecting the individual concerned. And the last tip is about patience, fundamentally. I was interacting with somebody from southern India in English, and when I'd said to him, "How are you?" a very simple question, in UK the response would be, "I'm fine, how are you?" Whereas in some parts of the world they'll give you 20 sentences to explain how they are, which in UK, that would be covered in 2 sentences. So cultural diversity is also about being patient, that their style of communicating may take longer than what you're used to, and it's just about persevering through those patience.